join us, but maybe we can go ahead and get started and she'll join a little later.
Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you everyone for being here. This is our first meeting of the semester. I'll go ahead and say up front, we're planning to get together in person for our second meeting of the semester. We've yet to figure out exactly how we'll do that, but hopefully it'll be something as fun as our tour last year. So please plan for getting together as a group in person, probably I would guess later in April or possibly in early May. So thank you everyone for being here. Council members, if folks had a chance to review the minutes, if there are any suggested changes, that would be great to have now. And if not, I'd be very happy to entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve them.
Thank you, Julie. Do we have a perfect? Thank you. All right, so minutes are approved. Again, their feedback always, if people notice things later, please let us know, but thank you for that. So we have a great agenda today, lots of exciting stuff to talk about. I'm going to be brief in opening remarks. I'll just say that we've had a chance, Sustainable Carolinas had a chance recently to brief big groups that are university-wide, including the Chancellor's Cabinet and the research deans and center and institute directors. And those have gone really well and have been really exciting and interactive. And for that, I thank all of you. We're doing great stuff as Sustainable Carolina and as the Carolina Sustainability Council, and people are really interested in it. So that I'd be happy to talk with folks offline, but suffice it to say that people are really interested in what we're doing, and we have a lot of significant substance to talk about, and that feels rewarding and great. So thank you all. The big one, we've got Earth Month, TM. We learned it's trademarked, so we're trying to be a little careful given our guidance from our legal folks. Earth Month is coming up, and Abigail has everything ready to go. We have an Earth Month webpage that is live. So if you go to sustainable.unc.edu, you'll find it there. If you'd like to add things to the calendar, if you or anyone in your units have things going on that you'd like to have reflected in the central calendar, please get in touch with Abigail. It's easy to add things. And I think at some point, Abigail will drop the form into the chat. And so if you want to do it just yourself, you can as well. So as Sustainable Carolina, our two main events are going to be a research symposium on the 17th, where we try and do one of the things that we have identified as really important, and that's highlight sustainability related research across the university by having folks give short, we're thinking lightning kind of talk length, maybe 10-minute talks. It's going to be in the Pleasance Family Room in Wilson Library, which is a great spot if everybody knows where that is. So if you would like to give a talk, we would love to have you. And if you know of others, please put them in touch with Melanie, and we're going to be putting that program together. I think there's plenty of capacity, and we're excited to formally highlight research related to sustainability. We also are going to have a student celebration is that joint with Carolina Dining, is that right? Or are we doing that sort of independently?
I think it was originally intended to just be us. They will be joining us. We're still working out some final details.
Perfect. But you all are doing a great job connecting through the Sustainability Coalition. Is that word? Do I have the right words? Yeah, great. So with the operational folks, and it's, we don't have to coordinate all the celebrations, but it certainly is efficient if we can work together. And I think this one's going to be great with ice cream and music and other departments tabling. And again, so if anyone in your units or members of a council want to have a table, just let us know. There's plenty of space. So we're excited about that. We are going to have a new Sustainable Carolina Earth Day t-shirt, or maybe it's just an Earth Day t-shirt. And I don't exactly remember what design we chose, but I know they were all they were amazing. I'll just put it that way. So everyone should be excited about the t-shirts. I'm advocating for t-shirt cannons, but if we can't have them in the Smith Center, I bet we can't have them at our table. So we'll see. I know where to buy them on Amazon, and I hope they're not a safety issue, because I miss the t-shirt cannon. but we'll have t-shirts for sure. So that's exciting. Please reach out if there's anything we can do to help promote events in your units. If you'd like to participate in any of the things that we have going on as Sustainable Carolina, we would love to have any and everyone, and we'll be back in touch, of course, to formalize invitations at the time of the events to get as many people to come as would like to. Another thing we have going on in the education realm is this is the second year of the Sustainable Triangle Field Site being directly connected to Sustainable Carolina. Last year, I was the interim director of that field site. This year, Tony Sebastian and I are co-directing that field site, and Melanie has been very involved as an instructor in 2 of the classes. And Abigail and Cindy have helped in material ways, so thank you. It's going really well, and I think it's a great model, and I'm looking forward to it going forward. There's a group research class called the capstone class that's part of that field site, and having that connected to sustainability issues at the university, I think is a really interesting long-term proposition. And it's a great group this year. We're doing a bunch of stuff ranging from sort of cradle to grave for stormwater, thinking about starting with roofs and green roofs and what they do, and then going all the way down to where the water leaves the university. So exciting updates to come. I'll share the presentation when it gets close to time, so everyone can come if you'd like, but it's been what I think we hoped it would be. And it's a lot of fun and a really important connection, I think, to the education side. We also, many of us, I know Cindy a bunch, have been involved in Amy Cook's first year seminar. It's just an example of ways that experts in our group and interested folks in our group help out on the education side. And then finally, there's a stakeholder group that's been organized around the cogen plant. And I attended a meeting on Friday, and it looks like that group is going to form subcommittees and begin a conversation around several issues about what the future could look like, and how we start with the baseline of needing to power the hospital and the university, including the $1.2 billion research enterprise, and how from there, what we can do to look to the future, and a future that maybe is advancing our ability to fuel efficiently and well, and becoming as modern as possible, as quickly as possible, which in a really old place like our university is definitely a challenge, but something we think about in Sustainable Carolina, but it's great to be a part of a big, broad community conversation. So that is what I have, and I will stop there because we have lots of great stuff today. Are there any questions or anything I can provide additional information on? All right, well, reach out at any time if anything occurs to you. And for now, we will move on to our great informational presentation, starting with Julie Jacobson-Van. Julie, please.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me see. I will share my screen and pull up slides. Let's see if I can start those. Okay, well, this was a learning experience for me. So I took time to correspond with most of the schools in the health and medical side of campus to find out what they're doing in terms of sustainability. And I learned several things that I was not familiar with. So I'm going to talk, just touch on some of the things from the School of Medicine, Health Center, Dentistry, School of Public Health and Nursing. I don't have information from School of Pharmacy and did not take time to reach out to social work, but there's some great things going on that I was not aware of. From the School of Medicine standpoint, it kind of breaks down into 3 major areas. There's scholarly concentration programs, new curriculum, and then the student organization CLEAN at UNC School of Medicine. The School of Medicine has these scholarly concentration programs that are kind of like an undergrad minor. So they're an optional longitudinal track, and the students take an elective course and then do a long-term project. And the project is presented in the spring of the 4th year. And there's one group of students that are currently in this, and as their project, they're actually developing a course on planetary health that will be an elective. So they're developing that as part of their program. So this course will launch this fall. So that's one big improvement. In terms of the curriculum, the School of Medicine has a new curriculum rolling out this fall. And as part of that, they're going to try to incorporate planetary health throughout the curriculum. This will be for all the School of Medicine students, and they've already incorporated planetary health into their respiratory block because they have their programs into different blocks. And so they've added in planetary health cases and references, and they're planning to expand in other areas of their curriculum. And then, of course, we've got CLEAN at UNC School of Medicine, and the CLEAN stands for Climate Leadership and Environmental Action Network. So this is the local student organization. And in November, I may have mentioned this before, they did a waste audit at UNC Family Medicine, looking at the waste volume and waste streams, whether things are going in the appropriate waste streams, and they were planning on expanding that. They're also designing a 6-week summer seminar for incoming first-year med students on environmental medicine, climate change, pollution, and let's see, I've got to move my thing here, human health. So that's the School of Medicine. One really important thing that the health system is doing, and one of the things that's kind of unique about the health system is, of course, they don't have a centralized sustainability department. So whatever actions are taking place are generally going to be division specific. And Dr. Stuart Grant is a professor of anesthesiology, and he was talking with me a couple of weeks ago about the effects of inhaled anesthetics on greenhouse gas emissions, which I was not familiar with. So they've got one quality improvement project going on where they're reducing gas flow on machines. So they're educating providers and doing a QA project or QI project. So that's one thing they're doing. The other is, and this was kind of interesting to me, is one of the most common anesthetics is called desflurane. And apparently it's the most harmful to the planet and has 20 times the environmental effect of some of the other ones that are less harmful. Using one bottle of it has the same global warming effect as burning 440 kilograms of coal. So the anesthesia department has eliminated use of desflurane, and they're also starting to do some recycling of single-use things such as pulse oximeter probes and blood pressure cuffs, which would be nice if they were reusable, but at least they're starting to recycle those. Also in the health system for perhaps 20 years, a program that's been going on is called MedWorld. It's a voluntary initiative run by the medical students where they recover things like single-use instruments and unused 2x2s when they open those surgical and medical packs, and there's lots of supplies. They put those in bins and they're shipped to developing countries to be used. Well, unfortunately, this program was shut down during the COVID-19 pandemic. And fourth-year med student Arthur Grabensk, as his longitudinal project, is trying to get this restarted. And there are some barriers in terms of storage and transportation and whatever. So at this point, it's kind of on hold, but it'd be great to get this started again. School of Dentistry has some sustainability initiatives in these 6 areas: the built environment, energy use, waste reduction, travel and transportation, initiatives in the clinic, and community engagement. In terms of the built environment, they have a green roof, and they've worked on ventilation, some recyclable ceiling tiles, things like using renewable materials such as wheat board. So those are a few examples. In terms of energy use and waste reduction, they're doing your basics of recycling, LED lights, water bottle refill stations, and even recyclable lab glassware. Of course, they're encouraging bike use, Zoom meetings, and telework to reduce travel. And this was pretty interesting to me. Amalgam, which is, those metal fillings, they've put amalgam separators in their sinks to collect that metal waste so that mercury and other chemicals are not getting into the water. And they are also doing these digitized models of teeth to avoid some of the plaster waste. They're using foot pedals, recyclable gowns, and then the community engagement part is they've got a dental student sustainability club. Now, the School of Public Health has a wide range of initiatives going on, and I'm just going to touch on a few. They talk about their initiatives from the school facility standpoint, department and employee efforts, and then school-wide programs. And one initiative is an edible garden and composting program that they, I believe, started in January. They've also installed 18 water bottle stations. They're using ultra low flow toilets in some areas. Some areas added LED light fixtures, and they've replaced, I think, about 14 or more of the older freezers in the wet labs to be more energy efficient. Then also they've purchased some big glass movable water dispensers that they can pull into meetings to avoid some of the use of plastic bottles, which is a great change. They're holding a number of retreats and meetings at the botanical gardens, and at the botanical gardens, they try to be green and sustainable in most of their activities. They're starting to use more caterers with compostable containers. Some departments have purchased cloth tablecloths to avoid the disposable. And of course, they're trying to work on encouraging employees to bike, walk, and use public transportation. And then in terms of educational programs, I think these are some of the really big things they're doing. This fall, they have a new Master of Public Health program, a concentration in environment, climate, and health. So that starts this fall. Their research and program priorities focus on environmental justice, air quality, climate change, and global access to water. And then they want to promote this free environmental justice lecture by Corbin Addison, who wrote a book about wastelands, and it has to do with some initiatives in North Carolina. So this may be very interesting. They encourage you to attend this event on March 23rd. And this is really honoring Dr. Steve Wing, who was one of my former professors in the early 90s. So I encourage you to attend that if you can, either in person or virtually. And then School of Nursing, of course, is where I teach. And personally, I incorporate greening of healthcare in my policy course. And in the course I'm teaching this spring on human resource management, focus on employee health and safety with respect to things like toxins in the healthcare environment. I'm also working very closely with the Carolina Advocates for Climate, Health, and Equity, and we're planning our spring symposium, which is taking place on April 21st. It's virtual, and we're trying to engage health systems throughout the state to get on board with some greening initiatives in their health system. So far, we only have one water bottle refill station in the school, but that's a start. And this spring, we're doing our spring celebration at the Botanical Gardens, similarly to the School of Public Health, so that's more sustainable. And over the last couple of years, the School of Nursing has given out free coffee mugs and reusable stainless steel water bottles as gifts. So those are a few things at the School of Nursing. And of course, I don't have any updates at pharmacy and social work, but I do want to point out, I think one sort of opportunity or an initiative we can leverage. And in fall, the American Public Health Association passed a policy statement called Advancing Environmental Health and Justice, a call for assessment and oversight of healthcare waste. And I was searching last night and actually found the document online. And I think that this gives us an opportunity to promote greening of healthcare among healthcare organizations. So that was my quick overview of some of the things I've learned about what's going on in health and medicine. So any questions?
Thank you, Julie. That was fantastic.
You're welcome. Stop sharing. So I'm excited to learn new things.
So I'll start off. It looks like the School of Dentistry has an awful lot going on. Could you get any sense as to how it might be where you would have pockets of activity like in dentistry, but maybe less so in some of the other medical related areas?
The School of Dentistry was pretty organized. It was, I think their operations director seems to be kind of on top of the whole thing. So I think what's unique is they have a brand new dean. So the dean was not really familiar with what was going on, but I think it was the operations director who really has a handle on all that's going on in the school. And I think having that centralized person is probably really helpful. School of Public Health, of course, that's sort of their main focus. Pharmacy, I tried to contact a couple times and haven't heard from them. And so it might be an area that we can look into. I have to contact social work as well to see what they've have going on. And nursing, I have to work more to get people involved. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but dentistry, I was surprised. They're fairly organized and they are seeming to make it a priority.
Yeah, that's great. Are there other questions?
I just wanted to add that for School of Dentistry, that's a long-term engagement with sustainability. They have a LEED Gold building that they completed in 2002, which is really innovative and a great space to walk through if you haven't been in there. Connected some existing buildings with new buildings to create their central atrium.
Nice.
Any other questions for Julie?
I'm really happy to hear about the new curriculum in the School of Medicine. I think that's exciting. And in the School of Public Health.
Mike, I wanted to jump in and just, Julie, thank you for that fantastic presentation. Do you have a sense of the student group at the med school? Is that facing, is it university kind of interest, or are they more kind of national or global facing?
The Clean UNC School of Medicine, they are part of the larger national organization. So I think the national organization is Clean, and then their subgroup is the School of Medicine at UNC. So they are part of a larger organization. They've got a pretty active group. And in our symposium that we're doing, Greening of Healthcare, actually I think 3 of the med students are going to be on panels talking about what they're doing. So they're a fairly active and engaged group.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Julie?
A quick one on the Advancing Environmental Health and Justice, the call for assessment and oversight of healthcare waste. Is there anybody looking to submit something for that, or do you want to talk about that offline? Is that something that we submit for to take part in, or is that more informational?
It's more informational. The American Public Health Association has a web page that's called Policy Statements. And so, so they're recommended policies that, for instance, a state or a federal government could adopt. So there's a group in Mebane called the West End Revitalization Association, and I believe they were trying to sue Stericycle for dumping the waste from incineration of medical waste into the Haw River. And so one of the head people with that group actually sent the statement to Roy Cooper and would like some sort of policy action at the state level. And I'm not sure what that would look like, but I have a copy of the letter that he sent to Governor Cooper to try to get some legislative action. I think another potential avenue is last summer I gave a presentation to Blue Cross Blue Shield on greening of healthcare, and I thought there could be some potential opportunities for health insurance companies to incentivize healthcare providers to be, to really do sort of lean initiatives by greening their operations and reducing costs. And so I think that it would be interesting to try to start engaging insurance companies in this process to see if they could, build it into a little bit of a pay for performance initiative. But we could work on some sort of, maybe as a group, work on some sort of initiative with legislators in North Carolina and coordinate with the West End Revitalization and see if we could work on some policy initiative.
Okay, I was wondering, because we've had some conversations with students and others about from a landfills are usually in underserved communities, to keep medical waste out of those landfills and creating a circular economy out of it, following some of the examples from the EU and the World Health Organization. So would love to talk about that offline.
Yeah,
sometime.
let's talk about
Anybody?
that. Yeah, I think we need to do something, and I'd love to discuss it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Julie. And I know Abigail will be in touch because I think a lot of the things you talked about will be wonderful to highlight through Sustainable Carolina for sure.
Okay, great.
All right. So I think one of the most common questions we get when we meet with any group is, how can I be involved? And there are ways that we think of, and there are answers that we have, but often it's not a simple answer because the big things we're trying to tackle are difficult to involve people in. A great example where you can be involved is a program called Green Office that Cindy Shea has been leading. And as we have transitioned back into being in person, has been able to engage people in person, which is, I think, a better way to connect for sure. Is currently piloting the program in the Institute for the Environment, and I believe maybe has done one other place, but I don't want to talk too much because I want to let Cindy talk about it. But this is one of those great points where we can say to interested groups, this is a program that is just about ready to go, that you can engage your office in and move sustainability forward. So Cindy, please tell us about how things are going.
Okay, thanks, Mick. So yes, this Green Office program was developed with the help of a team of capstone students in Carol He's class. And so we are now in the phase of rolling out pilot implementation, and I'll discuss what the program entails and who is currently involved. We think that there are a lot of people at UNC who are interested in sustainability and want to make a difference. And so we view this as an opportunity for people to bring those passions into the workplace. Often there isn't a vehicle for them to act on their interests in a professional environment. So we hope that the Green Office program provides that. This is a voluntary program, obviously. There are multiple levels that each office can strive to attain, and a number of different workplace practices that are addressed, from the environmental to the health and equity pieces. As you see, there's a website and all the information and far more that I'm going to address today is available on that website. I mentioned in the last slide, the environmental goals. Some of you may remember the 3 zeros goals of net zero greenhouse gas emissions, net zero water use, and minimizing waste to landfills. So those are 3 of the sections within the Green Office program that people can work on. So if you're thinking about how you can introduce greener practices into the workplace, as Mike said, people often ask how they can be engaged. If you become a green office, you can demonstrate that you are engaging in sustainable practices and get recognized for that work. You also get access to a number of resources and information that people don't tend to be familiar with, maybe bits and pieces, but not the full body of information that's out there to help employees. We also find that a lot of people in their work are sort of heads down in their own department and program, and this provides an opportunity for leadership development, project management, and we hope over time, as the Green Office program becomes more widely adopted, that we'll be able to develop a network of people who are trying to advance sustainability within their workplaces. And we view that as a key engagement piece with Sustainable Carolina and with sharing best practices among offices across campus. It's also an educational opportunity. People hear about sustainability, but unless that's your field, you're not necessarily familiar with all of the challenges that we're currently facing, the shortfalls associated with social issues in this society and the overshoot in the environmental issues. And as we all know, we're not doing so well at the moment. So we need a lot of work on all of these fronts to really get the systems back into better balance. So what is the Green Office program? What does it take? Someone needs to volunteer to be a Green Office coordinator. We ideally like departments of 20 people or more to sort of spread the effort and make more of an impact. The Green Office coordinator then recruits a team to work with them. And that can either be one team throughout the whole program or teams that shift depending on which module is being pursued at the moment. And then the network that we hope to form over time. So what are these modules? The energy, water, recycling, as I alluded to before with the 3 zeros goals. There's also transportation, procurement, the health and wellness, equity, outreach, and events. You can't start with outreach and events. That can't be your first module because we want you to have some substantive knowledge before you start reaching out more to others. And you get to pick these in any order, and you can do them sequentially or simultaneously, whatever suits your business need. And each of the modules has a section on the website. And in that section, there is a description of the topic. And then there is mention of what UNC is doing to address the issue. And I think that you would all learn something going through those descriptions of what's already underway at the university. And then there's a list of actions, 12 to 15 items approximately per module that you can pursue. And you don't need to do them all. It's about half of the items that are listed on the checklist you need to address in order to earn that module. And then there are different levels you can get. And before you get the final tree level where you've completed 7 modules, you need to do a Green Office project that is unique to your workplace. People identify a challenge that's unique to their office and then develop a strategy for dealing with that challenge, implement the strategy, and evaluate whether it was effective. And the modules, the actions that are asked are not a heavy lift. There are things like putting up stickers and signs or emailing your office mates about what's recyclable, putting in mug share programs. Julie mentioned the water bottle refill stations that have been put in various schools. And we know that at this point, we have avoided millions, if not over 10 million at this point, disposable water bottles through these water bottle refill stations across campus. Also introducing people to programs like UNC Surplus or on-demand fitness classes. So it's a real range, but it's not developing a new activity. It's basically alerting people to best practices and how they can find out more information. So for example, within the energy module, there are suggestions like these that involve both physical activity and reducing electricity use, and being more aware of what's happening around you. We have a lot of discussion on the capital side about whether we should have operable windows in buildings. And the engineers say, well, no, because people will leave the windows open overnight and then we'll be doing too much heating and cooling. And other people say, well, can we have a system to let them know when the AC is on? And at the botanical garden, they have the windows open whenever they can, but they're all really aware of what the outside conditions are. So behave accordingly. If we could get that to be more widespread, we could probably have more operable windows on campus, which I think a lot of people would like. So there are different levels of recognition. If you complete 1 module, you're seed certified. 3, you're Sprout. 5 your sapling, and 7 plus a green office project, you are tree certified. And given that this program is currently in the pilot phase, we are very open to suggestions across the board, but in particular with these recognition levels. What's meaningful? Is it a meal together with your colleagues? Is it something that's more tangible and visible related to green office that we, of course, would like to see, decals on windows or computers or email signatures, or what would be exciting, what would motivate people, and what would make them proud of advertising what they have done. So to reiterate, all of the forms and the checklists, the modules are on the website. If somebody is interested in taking on the role of the Green Office Coordinator, they complete an application for their office, and of course with the approval of their supervisor, and they agree to lead the Green Office team and coordinate the completion of the modules, and then work with team members to identify how far along the office is on the various module activities and what the gaps are and what can be done to improve the performance of the office. And so right now, as I mentioned, it's relatively new. I do teach a once a semester training course through Carolina Talent. It's a 4-hour workshop, and we address all the different aspects of Green Office as well as university sustainability goals and initiatives. And one key focus is on recycling right. Markets have shifted for secondary materials. A lot of countries no longer want our waste exports, and wish cycling, putting things in the recycling bin because you think they're recyclable or you want them to be, does not help the economics of the recycling industry. So we're trying to teach people, don't put your plastic bags in the recycling bins, except at the supermarket or the Carolina Union. And don't put in your cups because most of them are not recyclable because they have a plastic liner. So those are some of the key messages that the materials recovery facility wants us to get out there. So we're trying to train people. We do an actual physical waste sort where people stand around the table and look at lots of products and identify where they would put them in recycling or waste or compost. And no matter how good the person thought they were at recycling beforehand, they learned something because the markets change and because there's so many different materials out there. So the current pilots, Mike mentioned the Institute for the Environment, and at the last training, there were 2 of our staff members at the workshop. Other pilots are underway at the Botanical Garden and the UNC Health Sciences Department, which is a large department in the School of Medicine, about 120 people. And the assistant to the chair is the Green Office Coordinator. And about half of the members she's recruited for the Green Office team are faculty, which I was not anticipating, and I think is great to more fully integrate the Green Office practices into what everybody in the department does. And I think that's where I stop for today. So if there's questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cindy. Other questions? Julie?
Yeah, I'm just curious, does the university participate in the town's glass on the side recycling program?
That's more for rural areas that don't take glass in their blue bins. So that's not really applicable to the university as a whole, nor to people who live close to town.
Oh, well, I'm right in Chapel Hill, and I guess what they've told us that is if we take our glass, instead of put it in our bins, to the special bins like near Elliott, not Elliott, but there are special bins to put them in, and then it goes to a there's Eubanks, but then there's also some closer in I think like that one park by the high school, Chapel Hill East and whatever, but apparently they are recycling the glass directly at a certain place and it's more likely to get recycled. I didn't know if that was something the university is doing.
I'm not to my knowledge yet. That may be something that's worthwhile for Office of Waste Reduction and Recycling to explore. Typically, the recyclables from UNC and the towns are taken to a materials recycling facility in Raleigh. And there's
Okay.
actually a video you can watch about that process in the recycling module. But there is not source separation by material. However, if there could be more revenues or greater chance of recycling the glass, maybe it's worthwhile in their next contract negotiation to look at that option.
Yeah, I just learned about it a couple months ago. But
Well, thank you. I didn't realize it was being promoted in town as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think just very recently, I just heard about it a couple months ago. Thanks. Sounds great. So it sounds like we should get somebody, for instance, would this be something that we would do school-wide, or is it more at an individual office level within a school?
It's up to the units to determine what the best fit is for them. The Botanical Garden and Health Sciences, they're doing the whole department or organization. Same with Institute for the Environment, but if it's a whole school, are there different subsections that may be more applicable? Like I said, ideally we have 20 or more people in a department, so we're not doing every 4-person department across campus, because that's just a whole lot more effort and less impact. But it could be the whole school, or it could be components. It's depends on who's interested and wants to be engaged in the effort.
Okay, great.
But I would certainly encourage everybody to think about it for their units.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you, Cindy. Are there any additional questions?
Hi, Cindy. This is Alex Hopkins. I just was curious if you had thought about, this is a little bit outside the mandate, I think, but every time I get a question along the lines of what Mike's kind of opened this conversation up with about how to get involved, I feel like it's almost always from a student. And I'm just curious if you've thought about what this program could look like for pretty, more of like a student group doesn't have a fixed place, doesn't have an office physically, for example, but might be interested in some of the other modules or some of the other parts of this that are really exciting.
Great question. In the past, there has been an initiative called Green Events across campus, which encouraged all entities, including student organizations, to advertise for their event electronically, to encourage alternative transportation to arrive at the event, to pick caterers who bring zero waste and local food and zero waste as a result of the event. If units are interested in that, and that's less applicable to students really, but if units are interested in that, the Botanical Garden has a list of caterers online, because people who host events at the Botanical Garden sign a contract that they will have zero waste. And so the garden helps them with identifying local caterers who provide that service. With the green events, that would certainly be an option for student groups. I know Langley's been thinking of other ways to engage students in these activities. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to mention, Langley, that you have planned.
Other than our student internship, I'm not sure there's something I'm working on quite applicable to your question. But we will have a student intern hopefully in the fall for Green Office. So that's exciting.
All right, great. Thank you, Alex. Any last questions? Thank you again, Cindy, and everyone, of course, reach out to Cindy if you think of things once we're off the call. All right, great progress. So next up, we have Ella Feathers, who is a co-director of environmental affairs in undergraduate student government. And Ella was among a student group who organized an energy transition town hall in the middle of January that I think we've all talked about as groups of those of us who were there. And I think it went really well. And I'm excited to have Ella tell us a little bit about maybe the process and what the results and maybe reflections on the future so we can make sure that we retain those good ideas as we move forward. Ella, please tell us.
Great, thank you for the introduction. So at the end of last fall, the director of graduate environmental affairs and my other co-director, we had the idea to put together this energy transition town hall because there are honestly just a lot of student misconceptions about the energy transition and how much effort and resources we're putting into it and what's actually feasible and what the political and economic constraints are. So we had the idea to essentially bring everybody who is an authority on this topic, which ends up being a lot of people at Sustainable Carolina, together to basically kind of lay the foundation for, this is the situation that we're dealing with, and this is what we have to move forward based off of. And I think that it was very successful. We had over 40 people show up, which was very exciting because Toy Lounge and Die Hall was pretty full. We went, over time, everybody had a lot of questions. There were students and administrators and other university employees who were all there, excited to ask questions. In the future, I would say one thing that I think could have been done better is outreach to the broader community outside of just UNC, because there are definitely community stakeholders who aren't affiliated with the university who, have a very large interest in knowing about UNC's energy transition for other reasons. So in the future, I would maybe advertise more that way, but that wasn't necessarily the mission statement of the event that we tried to pull off. And so I think that we were very successful in our mission statement because lots of people were engaged. You could kind of see people going through the learning process at the town hall. You could kind of see people like raising their hands to ask a question, and they get their question answered, and they put down their hands and then raise it later to ask something more specific or more precise. And yeah, I really just think that all around it was a great educational tool. And we've had in discussions with my co-director and the graduate director of environmental affairs that we think that this should be a yearly ordeal because there are, there's a new class of students every single year. And then in addition to that, other upperclassmen who are just getting involved later in their time at Carolina. And yeah, it was just a really valuable event to clear up a lot of misconceptions and kind of give people the same basis of information to jump off of and keep working on sustainability with.
Thanks, Ella.
We also had, really quick, we also had another recommendation that we discussed in our meeting with Mike, that in addition to doing this type of event in the future, it would also be valuable to do similar types of town hall events about, our waste management plan and our water management plan. Because of course the energy transition is a big part of our net zero initiative. And honestly, it's probably the biggest hot button issue here at UNC, largely because of the coal plant. But still, I think that there would be similar educational value in similar town halls around waste and water. And yeah, those are basically my insights. Let me know if you have any more questions.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ella? That was great. So I can start with sort of a comment question, but I think one of the things that made the town hall really successful for the range of audience that you attracted, which was great. It's nice sometimes to look out in the audience and recognize all the people you talk to every day and realize you're talking to a group who understands the same things, but was more rewarding, I think, that you attracted an amazingly diverse group. And I think one of the keys was the way that you framed it with where are we now, where are we planning to go, and then how can I be involved, kind of being the thematic buckets. And that, I think, really was a good framework to engage people. And that's not a question, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Do we have questions for Ella?
Hi, Ella. I was just curious if there were any trends in student questions or concerns that you noticed that were interesting or that we could learn from.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of the student questions were directed about the cogeneration plan and the feasibility of moving away from that. A lot of students asked about, using like geothermal as a substitute or using other kinds of energy substitutes for that. And so I think that that's actually, so there were basically a lot of questions about using those other types of technologies to kind of transition away from fossil fuels. And an interesting connection there is that RESPC was also at the Energy Transition Town Hall. And I think that they were able to share a lot of information with students about how they can get involved with some of those projects. And even if they're not, feasible, even if it's not feasible to use geothermal to replace the cogen plant and the energy that it generates, it's still feasible to, look at geothermal projects through RESPC. So yeah, students, they really wanted to know about those transitional pieces. And even though they didn't, really get the answers that they wanted, which is that, oh yeah, we've never thought about geothermal before, why don't we look into that for the cogen plant? They were still able to, learn how they could pursue that type of project.
Really interesting. Thank you.
Are there other questions for Ella? All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ella. That was great. Okay, so we are remarkably exactly on time. So thank you to all of our great speakers. We have a bit of time here at the end set aside for council discussion. So if there are members of the council who have things they would like to update us on for the good of the order, we would be happy to hear from you.
I have an update on an event that student government is hosting. It's open to everyone in the UNC community. We're putting on a sustainable fashion show. It's going to be 5 p.m. March 24th, which is a Friday, in the Student Union Auditorium. And we're very excited. There's also going to be a vendor sale afterwards. So if you really like any of the things that the people are going to be wearing in the show, you can buy it afterwards. It's a big community push towards, slow fashion, mindful consumption, and supporting your neighbor. And, that meaning supporting other student small businesses. So we would love it if, you guys could make it. You could tell your networks about it. We think it's going to be a really fun event.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else with announcements?
Clean Tech Summit is March 27th and 28th. Everybody and more are invited to that. It's shaping up to be quite the group of panels and tracks, so we're excited about that. There's a lot more details on the website. And then I'll put out there also that the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Exchange on ESG and healthcare, so environment, social and governance and healthcare, is from 1 to 5 p.m. on Friday, March 31st. And the other stuff I'll put in the April, the trademarked Green Month, Earth Month. But we do have a Student Athlete Sustainability Initiative with a speaker from Nike and potentially one or two more on April 28th, and our Sustainability Awards on April 28th as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Any other announcements from the council?
I just think this sparked some great ideas for moving forward. So thanks, everybody.
No, absolutely. Thank you to everyone. It's been action-packed for sure. All right, well, everybody's going to get free 5 minutes along with an awesome meeting. And that doesn't happen very often on a Monday. So thank you again to all of our presenters. Definitely reach out if you think of questions as we go offline. And we'll be in touch fairly soon about getting together for our second spring meeting in person somewhere, hopefully somewhere fun outside. We'll see what we can manage.
Great.
But thank you again, and everyone have a wonderful week.
Thanks, you too.
Take care, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
great week.
See ya.
Take care.